I'm Soledad O'Brien. Welcome to Matter of Fact. A week of lawyering up at the White House as President Trump and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, hired private attorneys to represent them in the Russia probe. It's all because of expanding investigations by special counsel Robert Mueller and the widening congressional probes into Russia's involvement in the 2016 election. The biggest developments of the week: special counsel Mueller cleared former FBI Director James Comey's appearance before a congressional committee. Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was subpoenaed by both congressional intelligence committees, as was Trump's longtime personal lawyer, Michael Cohen. So, is the scope of the investigation reaching Watergate proportions or beyond? Jill Wine-Banks was an assistant special prosecutor in the Watergate investigation. It's so nice to have you joining us. When you were on the Watergate team, there are plenty of people who were citizens who said this is a witch hunt. And that was certainly pushed by those who supported President Nixon. Similar things happen, I think, around President Trump. There are plenty of people, including President Trump himself, who said this is a witch hunt. What would you say to them?
It isn't a witch hunt. Not only is there a lot of smoke and a lot of accusations that demand to be investigated. We know that the Russians hacked the election. We know that it impacted the election. And we don't know whether they had any help from Americans, and if so, who? What
do you think are going to be the most valuable things that come out of the special counsel's investigation? What is he looking for right now?
The special counsel is looking backward. He's looking at existing laws, federal laws, and whether they have been violated and by whom. The public will never hear anything from that investigation unless there is an indictment for criminal charges. That's when you would know something. Otherwise, it's protected by grand jury secrecy and should never be leaked or revealed. And I think it's very important in this instance for the public to have transparency right now, and a House or Senate committee that has public hearings, much like the Ervin Committee did during Watergate, provides that purpose. And they would be looking forward. Are there laws that we ought to put in place to prevent future actions?
Does the Mueller investigation and then the congressional investigations, do they interfere with each other? I mean, in any way, is one blocking the other?
They need to coordinate. If the Senate, for example, wanted to immunize someone to get their testimony, who the special counsel was looking at as a target for prosecution, that would be a problem. And so they need to coordinate that sort of activity.
Do you think that this leads to impeachment? Is that the path that we're on? 2 weeks ago, you didn't think so.
Right now, all I can do is judge what I've read in the newspapers, what I've seen on television. And when you see this much smoke and this much circumstantial evidence, and assuming that all these things are actually true, it could lead to impeachment.
What are the things that are huge red flags as being the biggest problems potentially for Donald Trump?
We can start with possibly the most obvious, which is obstruction of justice, which is a federal crime. You do need intent to obstruct justice, but if you ask the Attorney General to leave the room so you can have a private conversation during which, and I'm assuming that the memo actually exists and that Comey will next week testify that he was asked to drop the Flynn investigation, and if you know that it's improper to discuss an ongoing investigation, then that's obstruction of justice. That's enough evidence there.
In the Watergate case, you had the tapes. There was the smoking gun. Yes. What would be the smoking gun in this particular investigation, the Mueller investigation? Would that, I mean, if Comey is taking notes, does that rise to the same level as a smoking gun?
It can be, because he's a trained person who takes contemporaneous notes, and they would be pretty credible. It's not as powerful as hearing the voice of Richard Nixon and Haldeman, his chief of staff. There's no substitute for that. But it's pretty close. And remember, the president threatened that there are tapes. So maybe there are. I would love to hear them. That would be very, very exciting. So I'm waiting to see what accumulation of evidence, this drip, drip, drip of pieces of fact, and facts matter.
Jill Wine-Banks, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me here.